Have you seen the size of my son?
Yeah, I've boxed him.
Yes,
I
that's
know.
right.
You're missing the point.
He's got power.
Can't see anything other than a dominant stoppage.
It's eggacy, isn't it?
They're trashing it. And you are not looking at that, and I don't know why you're not looking at that.
Hello and welcome to Chris Eubank Jr versus Conor Benn, no glove lost. I'm Wally Jr, the battered brain and squeaky voice behind Sunsport Boxing, and I'm joined by Jack Figg here, the mouth-watering hairline, jawline, waistline and face of the firm. We've pulled together a powerhouse corner team to help us dissect this Benn versus Eubank second-generation grudge match.
First up, he's former British, Commonwealth, European and WBA super middleweight world champion, St George Groves.
And next to him is Harlem Eubank, a super lightweight turned welterweight who fancies the Conor Benn fight himself. He comes to us on the back of an excellent win over Tyrone McKenna.
And finally, he's a British boxing legend who knows this family rivalry better than anyone because he's the one who started it. It's the legendary Chris Eubank Sr.
I don't mean to discredit the two main broadcasters of this fight, but I genuinely believe that our production team has pulled together the best possible panel to talk through the last 3 years and this magnificent fight, and how this legacy between two great boxing families will be decided.
You've said this is a legacy fight.
It is being billed as a legacy fight.
Okay, sure. They have built it as a legacy fight. So this started in 1990 with me and Nigel. So let me ask you. So my son, he smashes an egg on the face of Conor. You want me to be associated with this is what you call legacy? That's not legacy.
It's eggacy, isn't it, Chris?
That is bringing the game of boxing into disrepute. That of which would have been a disqualifying effect back in my day. No different to the language of Conor. The man speaks like he's a possessed drunk from a boxing point of view. And, you know, the fighters here will actually back this up. If Junior has only fought 3 times in 3 years, and if Conor has only fought 3 times in 3 years, it's hot air. However much hot air energy, however much energy you have, is false. It's not there. You have to train to be superior. You have to train to be effective. You have to train to be dangerous.
But this is prize fighting, and you guys, you're
prize
doing
fighting.
it from...
No. You see, then you try to take it away. This is the noble art. This is boxing.
Is this the difference in the times now, Chris? So if we look back at what you and Nigel did, the fights you had that built the rivalry, that built the history, and now we've got both your sons fighting each other in a different era, neither of which have fought at the level that you or Nigel did, or haven't succeeded at the levels that you guys had, but this is still the biggest fight in British boxing right now.
It's the biggest fight for what reason? Because one is swearing like a possessed drunk, and the other is using.
So is that a product of the era now? That's what people want to see.
It's the biggest fight in this country because of him and Nigel and your great success and how highly you are regarded. That is why this fight is big. It's a welterweight against a super middleweight for no belts and both out of form. It's because of what you and Nigel Benn created together.
So then you, Wally, Mr. Journalist, Mr. Authority, because you're speaking to the people, you should. You know, I look to you and say, well, you're not doing your job. This is not boxing. It is not okay. It is disgraceful. The fight will not happen, because if it happens, it means the rules have failed. And I believe in the rules, no matter what.
What rules failed, Chris? What rule is it?
Well, you see, I heard this, to put it into perspective, I heard and watched on Piers Morgan. I listened to Conor Benn. He literally said this. You can go back and watch it. He said, I am really a 147 fighter, but for this fight, I'm going up to 160, then I'll come back down. Who are you? So the rules don't apply to you. Is this it? The
right.
rules. Do the rules apply to him, or is he exempt because of Matchroom? And these rules are put in place to actually look after us. So what Conor's doing there is madness. It's insane.
Harlem, would you go up to middleweight for a fight if Chris physically would allow you? Do you think it would be that dangerous as a 147 fighter? Would you fight at 160?
No, I think there's weight classes. The whole, the sport of boxing is based on weight classes, and you fight the guys in your weight. That's how it works. And as far as I'm aware, it's never been any different. The legacy of obviously the names. My uncle and Nigel Benn created a legacy based on two, great fights in their weight division.
Sorry, and these two young men are trashing. They're trashing what me and Mr. Benn did. They're trashing it. And the public are following it because, it's just entertainment. It is not just entertainment. Boxing is the standard-bearing vocation. Please.
George, if James DeGale, your rivalry, or at the other end of your career, Carl Froch, had slapped an egg in your face and it made you another 100 grand, or Froch £250,000, like if it was that big, would you swallow it?
Yeah, you've got to wonder, like, you put yourself in a position where you got egged. That would be my disappointment. As if I was Conor Benn, I'd be like, I didn't see it coming. Like, I didn't see that coming because Chris planned it. Like, and therefore he has been prepared. It feels like at every stage of this build-up, which I would have tried to have followed. That would have been who I was as a fighter. I always wanted to be prepared. I want to know what to expect, anticipate what the opponent's going to do, what the media's going to ask. The bit that I wouldn't necessarily know is what bits catch fire, what bits are you after? And I feel like maybe fighters should ask the journalists, like, what is actually really interesting, what's going to get me on the back page? And I think both Eubank and Conor Benn are very interested. Sure, they've got their parents' name, but even if they didn't, they wouldn't be as big, but they certainly would have the ability to get people interested, get people involved. And this has been the biggest, the most interesting build-up. Me, as I'm a fight fan, Chris, and I work within boxing, I follow boxing, but a lot of the build-up to most fights, I'll be take it or leave it. Am I interested in going to a press conference? Absolutely not. Do I just want to sit and watch Eddie Hearn interview everyone on the top table? Like,
How excited are you?
Okay, yeah. But Chris is bringing his A game. 100% he's bringing his A game. He is there. He's prepared. He might have moved his line in the sand to somewhere that you wouldn't have gone to, Chris, in terms of hitting him with an egg. But I'm certain that he knows that what you see is what you get with Conor Benn, just like with his dad, and he was going to implode. And this is what this battle of this build-up is going to be. This fight, essentially, is who can hold their nerve, who can go out and perform.
It's against the rules. Their language is against the rules. Their actions, which are physical, which is outside of the ring, is against the rules. Everything that, the weight, this is against the rules.
But it was done with Panaz, Chris. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that usual, getting in each other's face, screaming and shouting. No, Chris came prepared and egged him, which was specific to
Which is why he has to have his license revoked. If that ever happens, if the fighters don't know that this will...
He's being punished for it pretty severely.
Like 100,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, Chris.
A lot of money. Some people don't earn that money during their careers. But it's nothing to him because of the money that he's actually earning. But what he's doing, he's sending a message out there which makes a mockery of boxing. And you are not looking at that. And I don't know why you're not looking at that.
From a pure boxing perspective, skill for skill, and I'll ask you in a second as well, Harlem, who do you think is the better boxer, skill for skill, out of Eubank and Benn?
Yeah, it feels like such a long time since I've seen Conor Benn fight. And he was so raw to start with, didn't have a huge amateur pedigree, but punches very, very well, very neat and correct. Like, you could... They're very different, but very similar in many ways. So when I used to spar Eubank Jr. back in 2011, 2012, middleweight, but he was ferocious. His dad was there a lot of the time. He would come, he would throw as many punches as you could possibly throw. He wouldn't take a backward step. And I feel like since the last few years, that intensity has dropped off. He's got decent boxing ability, you know, fundamentals in place, but his feet and hands don't always work together. His jab's not always thrown with authority. Throw a lot of uppercuts. Bent arm shots were pretty good, and you know, if he caught you at the end of the third or the fourth shot, that's when he would be dangerous. Physically very strong, and fast. Good hand speed. Conor Benn looks like he's a dangerous fighter early, maybe not in the second half of the fight, just because of the way that he fights. Comes out, doesn't look to set stuff up, just wants to hurt you early. In some ways, some people might really think that's the way to fight, and others might think, actually, no. You know, I never dominated a first round. Sometimes I would barely win the first round because I'm coming out to control the distance and maybe touch him with the left hand. That'll be enough for me in the first round. Just setting in place what's going to come for the future. But some people are like, I've got to land a big left, I've got to land a big right hand. I think that is Conor Benn. I think Conor Benn will try and come out quick, jump on Eubank, try and hurt him early. And that might be his best chance for success, is to try and catch Chris early.
That's if the fight happened, which is not going to happen.
Yeah,
George,
it's all hypotheticals.
George, it's interesting you speak about, you know, how far back your history goes with Junior. I know Wally and I wanted to ask you about that, but Harlem, I'll go to you as well, taking your Eubank hat off for a second, skill for skill. How do you rate Conor as a fighter and Chris as a fighter and comparisons?
I think it's night and day. We've never really seen Conor box. He comes out to fight, applies a ferocious kind of mentality to the early rounds, gets caught as well. Since something was discovered in the system, I don't think he's looked the same since. You know, in the 3 fights after that, I don't think he's shown the same ferocity, the same intention that he did in the fights before. So, you know, if you're talking skill for skill, I think it's night and day.
Having grown up with him, being cousins who, you know, like to wind each other up, when you see the stuff that he's done at the press conferences, and when you know that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of fight week, he's going to have that microphone again, do you sit there with a wry smile and remember how he might maybe wound you up when you was kids, or are you looking at it thinking, I know what he's doing to get the psychological edge before the bell?
It's entertaining for the general public, and Junior, he knows how to navigate the public, and that's what he's doing. And it's very entertaining for the general public. I know that, you know, Senior will have a different viewpoint in terms of what boxing entertainment should be, but you know, I think he's steering the public, you know, and is mentally, you know, 10 steps ahead of Conor Benn, and you know, he's won every exchange so far, and I don't think the fight, should it happen, will be any different.
Right, let's head straight to the heart of the action. We are dialing into the Conor Benn camp in Mallorca, where Conor Benn has been sharpening his tools ahead of the Chris Eubank Jr fight, and he's been having British middleweight champion and top sparring partner and all-round good egg, Denzel Bentley, doing it with him. Denzel, how are you, mate?
I'm all good, thanks. Don't forget European champion too. That's definitely shout out.
Denz, you was one of Conor's main sparring partners for the first camp in 2022, and
yeah.
And you're out there again for this one. How different is the person and the boxer?
I think that camp compared to this camp, there's been a lot of growth. Just him as a person maturing in himself and within his body. He's a lot stronger, a lot more ferocious, and he has a lot more to kind of a lot more to fight for, in a sense.
We've got George Groves sitting here with us, and what keeps playing in my mind is the skill and the size, the power of George Groves that Chris Eubank Jr fought. When I think about Conor, even in his best performances, those two guys are so far apart. it looks to me like an easy Chris Eubank Jr win. But I'm sure you're going to tell me that Conor is handling a great middleweight like you quite well.
The instance of him fighting George Groves in that fight, if we're being really honest, that wasn't the best George Groves. That was George Groves coming to the end of his career. Injuries, all these things. His shoulder popped out in the last round or the last 2 rounds or whatever. But he was smart. George Groves is a smart fighter, and he's had that over, Eubank in that fight. He had the intelligence, the ring IQ, and how to manage a fighter like Chris. And Chris was just fighting with pure aggression and, no real thoughts at all. So I don't think you can compare the two, because if George Groves was like his best, around the times of fighting Badou Jack and when he won the world title against Chudinov and even the Frotch fights, he probably would have, got Chris out of there in a different fashion. It would be a different fight at least.
Is that fair, George?
It was one fight before the end, but I was in pretty good form. But I'm not going to dispute with Denzel there. He's being kind about me. So yeah. But I suppose it is that thing of welterweight coming up to middleweight now, and he's going to be nothing but polite about Conor because he's out there working with him. And sometimes it is hard to tell. You get a false reading sometimes in sparring, isn't it? Because you've got the big head guards on and you've got the big gloves, and
of course,
I feel like usually it's just general size, like height and reach, and I've been in there I've sparred welterweights before, and just tech spars, and you just know that it would never be competitive. Even if they piled on the weight, it would never be competitive. But it's been years now that Conor Benn has been trying to pursue this fight at middleweight. So maybe he's bigger than the average welterweight. I can't see him going back down to welterweight after this. So spending this amount of time up here, you can't go back down because it's not healthy, but it's not feasible either. You look at Roy Jones, went up to heavyweight, came back down, didn't work out for him. Many others. The man next to me, Chris, he ended up at cruiserweight, if I believe so. From middleweight to cruiserweight, and he was probably killing himself to middleweight, killing himself to make super middleweight for a while. That's why he's ended up at cruiser. But there's no way you go up to cruiserweight and come back down.
Harlem, this must be quite interesting for you because you've got a member of Conor Benn's camp here, a man that's going to help the fighter fight your cousin. So, interesting situation for you. Is there anything you want to say or ask, Denzel?
No, I think fighting and sparring are two very different things. Conor's fought 3 times at 154 pounds, and he struggled in every fight. That's his latest form. So you have to go off what people are doing in the ring, and based on his latest form, you wouldn't put him in there with Chris Eubank Jr.
Denzel, you've obviously been in there with big middleweights. From a pure punch power perspective, how hard does Conor hit at this stage?
He's got power. I was even discussing the other day. He has got power. He's very explosive. He puts a lot into his work. You know what I mean? He puts a lot into his shots. Like every shot's spiteful. Like he wants to hurt you with these shots.
May I just make an observation?
Please do.
The observation is about being a contestant, being a fighter. When you want to hurt someone, your energy is halved. Look to score points. Look to actually strike with technique. That's how you knock people out. When you have all this energy, or he's got all this spitefulness, it's hot air. Trust that. The fight's not going to happen because of, I've said it. The fight won't happen. But as you will see, whenever a fighter goes into the ring with all this dislike, you're useless. Remember, I was fighting 5 times a year as world champion. The more you fight, the better you become. These are not dangerous men now. This is built on hype. So we look to the promoters. I'm watching you. I'm on you. Okay, and this will not stand. Your licenses should have been revoked a long time ago. Okay, and that time is here. Trying to boil my son down to 157 a few years ago, it would have killed him. Killed. It's real for us. Okay, and what these people are doing, they're running amok. And how Barry Hearn could actually let this let this happen and let his son do what he's doing? It's unconscionable. This is not who we are, okay? As fighters, and the promoters have a duty of care to the fighters.
Denzel, can I just ask one final thing before I let you get back to sunbathing? One thing that's come into my mind
I don't need no more sun.
is that I was asking George about it. Since Chris probably boxed Billy Joe Saunders, he's always had people picking at him, calling him names, starting stuff at press conferences. It's gone all the way through. Conor has never really had a domestic rivalry. He's never had someone insult him and doubt him and question him and embarrass him, with an egg or with words. What do you see around the gym? Do you think that's got into Conor's head? Is he sparring and fighting and preparing differently?
I can't say whether it's different or not because we're not gym mates, so I haven't seen him prepare for all the other fights he's had. I'm saying this is the first time I've actually been in a camp with him and had this sort of insight. So I can't say if there's anything different, but he doesn't really seem to be bothered about that. I don't even think I've asked him about it either. Just here to do a job. I'm minding my business. I'm not really asking too many personal questions like how did he feel about getting hit with an egg or how did he feel about Chris or moving forward and blah, blah, blah. I just asked how he's feeling in sparring, after sparring, before sparring, ask him how the camp go, how was the session this morning. I mean, just like normal conversation, but anything to do with the fight or how he feels about the situations, the press conference and stuff like that, I ain't really asking.
Denzel, wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully I see you in fight week, mate. And thank you very much for your time and your insight as always. And all the boys from the Peacock Gym will help us out.
Thanks for having me.
The fight's not happening, but you don't believe that, do you?
Why is it that you feel so strongly that this fight won't happen?
Why? Because my son, who is walking around now at probably 180 pounds, will have to boil himself down to 160. Conor's career is already destroyed because he's associated with drugs. Once your name is associated with, why are you fighting? This is about nobility. Let's talk about the fight that actually makes sense. Okay, he's unbeaten, 21 fights. He has been noble. Okay, why doesn't he deserve the fight? Is it because he doesn't have the personality of his uncle? This is about fighting ability.
Chris, it doesn't matter really, because this fight is not this big for Chris or Conor's ability, right? Neither of them have ever won a world title. If you look at the current world champions, they're unlikely to beat any of them. It is a big fight because of the history of you and Nigel. And at Chris's age now, at this point in his career, I can't see, I might be wrong, that these guys are going to have 3 fights together. We hope that the fight itself is dramatic enough that it lives up to the build-up, and I kind of feel like it will. I don't think that it won't. Times have changed.
In spite of the rules.
No.
But
I think the main difference is we had a phone interview September 2022,
Go on.
and I went back and read it. You just come back from South Africa, and I think you did a few interviews, and it was really emotional. You'd lost Sebastian, a year before, I think, and you was asking me about my sons and what I want them to box. But what you knew then, I believe you knew, is that Conor had failed at least one drug test.
Did I tell you that?
You didn't. You didn't.
So what makes you think
Because I believe Chris knew then. So this is just an assumption. My assumption is that if you know Conor had failed one drug test...
No, I didn't know. I didn't know. Do not put that. Don't put words into my mouth.
Again, I said I assumed. So that's why when you said this fight will not happen and I believe it won't happen, and you proved to be correct, that's why that situation seems so sensible. But now there has been no failed drugs tests. The board are happy for them to merge their weights and mess around. There is no rankings, there's no belts. I understand.
So, Mr. Journalist, if the Board of Control are bowing to this nonsense, you have a job to do. Otherwise, you're not doing your job.
But the board is also just a business. It's a limited trading company. It's not legislative. It's not the government. So the board are going to, whether I like it or not, the board are going to do what makes the most money for the British Boxing Board of Control.
That is not what the Boxing Board of Control is here for.
It's a business.
No, it is not a business. It is a controlling body. Okay, and they will do their job because they have to. And you will do your job because you have to, and you've got no choice in that. That's why the fight doesn't happen. So, I just wanted to get back to something you said. You were just talking about the fight's going to happen, you're looking forward. But what about the rules?
The rules are adhered to, Chris. Apart from Conor Benn swearing, which every fighter does.
No, he's 147. Right? He's a 147
No,
fighter.
He's going to weigh in at 160, Chris. And he's moved up in weight over the last few years. There's no, I'm on your side talking about Chris Eubank Jr coming down to 157 when he'd already fought at 168. I thought that was a step too far, and then that is just literally trying to force, a square peg in a round hole. Like, you want to make the fight, that's the best we can do. But the fight is set at 160, that is a weight class, that's middleweight. And if it's at middleweight, then there's nothing wrong with this fight. This fight is this fight.
But he's not a middleweight. But he's not a middleweight. He's a 147 fighter.
He's out there sparring with Denzel Bentley, who's the best middleweight in the country. Barring maybe Hamza Shiraz or maybe Chris Eubank. He's a middleweight now. He's never gonna touch welterweight again.
Hold on a minute, but you're now going against his own words. He said, "I'm going up to 160 for this fight, then I'm coming back down."
I don't believe a lot of fighters when they say stuff, Chris. You know what I mean? Like,
you may not believe
we can say stuff, but I'm telling you,
Harlem, do you believe the fight happens?
Based on the promotion, what they've put into it, how much they've invested in it, you would have to assume that it is. But based on what my uncle is saying about the fight, you never know. So
no. I know. I don't think. I don't believe. I know.
But he's had 3 fights at 154.
The point.
He's up at 160
This
now.
is what he said.
I doubt he's going to be like.
This is what he said.
I'm not disputing what he said, but I personally do not believe there's the chance that he could ever get back down to welterweight. Because I have the experience of being a fighter. When you let yourself get heavy, it don't come back off. Like when Chris Eubank boxed me at 168, fought at super middleweight for a significant amount of time, then decided couldn't beat me, couldn't cope at 168, had to come back down to 160, try his shot, shoot his shot at middleweight, and then when he got beat by Liam Smith, I thought, that's it, he's been done by the weight. The weight has done him. He spent too long at a heavier weight, come down. I doubt he's the sort of chap who balloons up and comes back down. So actually taking off a couple of pounds at the end is hard, and you can see it's hard on him. Now, as long as he can make 160 still, he'll be fine.
You know what it is? Have you seen the size of my son?
Yeah, I've boxed him.
Yes, that's right. So I'm saying to you that, you see, you've got the promoters who do not understand boxing. So you've got the promoters saying, "Oh, he's coming up." He doesn't understand what it is for Junior at 35 to be coming down to 160. He does not have any idea what that means. He doesn't understand drying out.
Yeah, but that's his choice. That is Eubank's choice, isn't it? Chris's choice.
But again, the reason why this doesn't make sense is because it's against the rules. Even you now are saying to me, you're saying to the audience that, okay, we can see a way to get past the rules. He is a 160 fighter. In actual fact, obviously, he's 168. But the fight is this guy's 147. He's saying it, and you're saying, well, I don't believe he will. But listen to what he's saying. He's saying that he's going to actually come back down to 147.
Harlem, could you imagine now, just starting off as 140, going up to 147, could you imagine now going up to 160 and holding your own against a middleweight, a very good middleweight who was challenged for world titles?
No.
It would be unfair? It would be dangerous?
There's a lot of things at play. You have the fact that Junior is a heavier fighter. There is some type of weight restriction, rehydration clause. There's things in there which, is it an IBF rehydration clause?
It has nothing to do with the IBF, but that was their old one. I think it's got a 12 now.
So what is that?
Rehydration, when this word is put out there by the promoters, when that word is put out there, it's called like an explosion. To take your mind off of, it's a distraction, to take your mind off of the rules. You can't break the rules. The rules are in place to keep you safe. You have to know that.
You're missing the point in that it's
really?
one. No, but it's one. It's the fight's made at 160.
Go on.
That is Chris Eubank's weight.
Go on, yes.
And Conor Benn's come up in weight. Now, there's not a lot of history of guys coming up in weight and getting hurt. The truth of the matter is you get hurt when you dehydrate, and then if you're dehydrated in camp and then you're sparring, you might get caught, you might get hurt, you might get dehydrated you might not have rehydrated by fight night if you cut a lot of weight the day before, or you've done a same day weigh-in or whatnot. But the danger then, therefore, is with Eubank.
Junior,
you would assume.
You think I'm not aware of this?
No, but he's a 160 fighter. He's been fighting at 160. He hasn't dropped down a weight division for this fight. So he's adhering to the rules.
Listen to this, okay? The first super middleweight championship of the world fight was me against Michael Watson.
Yep.
That's when the new weight came in, okay? So this was an extra 8 pounds because we couldn't do middleweight anymore. This is when I was 26, 27. Junior's 35, still having to get down to 160. I know what that feels like. I know about the dehydration. I know that it's responsible for the damage to fighters. So so now we've come onto that. I'm well aware of this. Perhaps I'm more concerned about that than anything else. I don't want him coming down to 160. Which is why I went off talking about these guys are trying to murder my boy, trying to boil him down to 157. Listen to this. They said, he's the one who actually said it. Junior is the one who actually said that he'll come down to 157. Junior. That's because he's only looking at the money. That means you're no longer looking and listening to your protector. You're now just looking at the money, and this is how you get run over. If you don't look left or right before you cross the road, you get run over.
There are two different weight classes. There are no belts on the line.
It's a 10-round fight.
It's a
mockery.
This is built on. This is built on the legacy of you and Nigel.
Hold on.
If you don't turn up, and if you don't take part, and if you don't help DAZN and Sky, it's going to, for me, in Fight Week, it's going to look very odd that Nigel is there to sell it and to sell it as a family fight, and there is one huge giant void. After that, I don't really know what this fight is sold on if that man's not there. But can I just ask them to answer, because they're talking about you. Do you understand my point? Like, if it's all about family legacy, second generation, and the founding father with Nigel is not there, like Nigel's got no one to talk to and have a face-off with and have a chat with.
There's more to life, Wally, than boxing in this regard. This is obviously a personal thing between father and son.
It's not personal. It's not personal. It is against the rules. I would be in my son's corner if he was fighting at the right weight. It's against the rules. It makes me. It mocks everything that I actually fought for. It mocks the standards. It mocks Britain. We are not idiots.
Chris, I think you're talking about changing the rules.
No,
because they're adhering to the rules. If the rule is you got to weigh 160, weigh 160. If there's a £10 rehydration next day, which is pretty much past, it's not.
Sorry, what are you
It's not a
talking about?
specialised thing brought in for this fight. IBF and many other title fights, they want you to weigh £10 again the next morning, but then on the evening you might weigh £20 heavier. It's a bit of nonsense, in my opinion. I don't think it will cause more problems than not, but that means you need to change the rules. It's not that the rules are being broken.
No, the rules are being broken. So again, you're saying to me that Conor is not saying that he's just going up to middleweight for this one fight before he comes back down. You're acting like he didn't say that. Maybe you didn't see the interview.
No, I didn't say that he didn't say it. I'm saying that I doubt he would be able to come back down to... Well,
again, now you're talking about your opinion.
I'm telling you what fighters want to do.
But you're talking about your opinion. Yeah. I'm talking about the rules. It's written.
What is written?
It's written that 147 fights 147. It's written that 160...
And he will be 160 when he weighs in.
If this fight hadn't have been made, do you think that you and Christopher would be okay right now?
I'm a dad. I'm a protector. I'm trying to steer him in the right direction. I'm not giving him any bad advice. I'm not giving him the wrong advice. I'm giving him the truth and what works and what will age well. I'm his dad. Now, the fact that he's chosen not to listen, what can I do? The only thing I can do is actually step back and just watch the car crash, because it will be a car crash. What he doesn't understand is this is boxing. You lose your faculty. This is dangerous.
But he will know that, because you will have taught him about Michael Watson and McLennan, and he will know Nick Blackwell and his Uncle Simon, all of those things you've expressed. He will know these things.
And in spite of all that, he is still going into this fight, of which I have advised him not to do. I advised him 3.5 years ago, this fight is not for you. You don't do this.
I've got to be honest, Chris. I feel like you're feeling like people keep talking about this being legacy. And ultimately, this is legacy that's out of your hands now, because now it's your son fighting Ben. It's Eubank Ben. But before, you were in control of that destiny when you fought Nigel. Now it is out of your hands. That must feel a pressure for you.
No.
As much as the complicated feelings of caring about your son and not being part of the team, but also...
Are you going to listen to my
George,
response?
do you think this is the start?
Hold on. Are you going to let me respond?
Yeah, I was trying to get all the points across, but do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
You want to hear my answer?
Please.
It sounds like this. I know exactly what's going to happen. Okay? When I say this fight doesn't happen, it's not because of me. It's because the rules are set. And the rules are in place. Only you don't believe in the rules like I do. I'm steadfast by the rules. That's why the fight doesn't happen. It's not meant to happen because the weights are wrong. And that's where I stand.
Fellas, I'll come down the line now. Harlem, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. What does your heart tell you happens in this fight? And then what does your head tell you will be the outcome?
I can't see anything other than Eubank Jr stoppage, but we know he likes to entertain, so I don't know how much of let's let this kid hang about in here for more rounds than he needs to make it look remotely competitive. So it's hard to call, but in terms of if there's nothing else at play, then I can't see anything other than a dominant stoppage win for Chris.
Senior, if this fight, if nobody abides by the rules, if the rules are circumnavigated and the fight does take place, what do you think happens?
I think Harlem stops, Conor. Yeah.
I think so too.
And that's what I look forward to. All you guys dreaming about something that's not going to happen, good luck with that.
George, having sparred the young Eubank, fought the prime-ish one, what do you think happens in this fight? What does your head tell you technically will happen between an unproven welterweight and a tried and tested world title challenger at super middle, maybe at different parts of their career? What does your head say and what does your heart tell you?
I'm going to refrain from picking a winner just because I might be working the broadcast, but because I don't like to show bias, So you see people do that time and time again. They pick something and then they have to stick to their guns. And I'll openly lift my hands and say I could be wrong. I think what you see is what you get with Conor Benn. He's going to come out hard and fast. He's going to try and land something big on Eubank early. See if he can get past those first 3-4 rounds. But what I will say is I still make Eubank the favourite in this fight. I still pick him as a favourite for this fight without picking a winner.
Right, that's the final bell. Big thank you to Jack, to George, to Harlem, to Senior and to Denzel. The fight is just around the corner and most of us cannot wait to see how it all goes down. Let us know your predictions in the comments, who wins and how. Don't forget to like, subscribe and stay locked into Sun Sport for all the latest fight coverage. And once the dust has settled, make sure you tune into our brand new Sun Sport show Split Decision for the full post-fight breakdown. We'll see you there.